clearly see how horsepower makes such a big difference here. Is that bodywork loose? Oh, big crash.
Big Senna has gone off at a very, very quick part of the racetrack.
Same place as Berger had that huge crash 2 years ago, or in '89. Look at this, look at Häkkinen. Häkkinen almost gets caught up. But Senna must have had a mechanical failure and has a huge crash, and he is still stationary and motionless in that racing car.
That is the Tamburello corner, taking it close to 200 miles an hour. You're right, that's where Gerhard Berger went off and had that huge wreck. No motion from the yellow helmet of Ayrton Senna in the car.
Nelson Piquet in a Williams had a mechanical failure here also several years ago and had a very, very big crash. There is no motion in that car. I don't know why the medical staff is not already there. There, he is moving. He is moving.
And we have a red flag. The race will be brought to a halt.
Where is the medical staff? Why is there not a doctor there with Senna already?
I don't understand this because Imola, the Ferrari circuit here in Imola, has a reputation as one of the best marshaled in all of Formula One. When Berger had his accident back in '89, there were corner workers on the run toward his car before it stopped and burst into flames. Now I saw a course car pull up next to Senna. Let's see if we can tell what happened.
Something clearly broke. He leaves the track at a tremendous speed. Probably 190 miles an hour. Huge impact as the outside wheels, tires, bodywork, and Senna is already unconscious because of that impact.
Once again, the question has to be head and neck injury. With those helmets, and helmet makers have done much to try to lighten those helmets while still providing protection, they are still enormously heavy when taken together with the weight of the driver's head, and that puts tremendous stress on the neck of the drivers in these huge crashes, 10, 15, 20 G impacts.
This is not a good sign here for Ayrton Senna. I was shocked how long it took the medical staff to get there. Remember, they are parked at the head of the pit lane, which is only 200 or 300 yards away, yet it took them so long to get there. Now, these impacts do cause major problems. Barrichello, actually, when the doctors got to him on Friday, there's Professor Sid Watkins in the red overalls leaning over, but Barrichello, in his crash on Friday, when the doctors got there, had actually swallowed his tongue and blocked his airway that the doctors recognized very quickly and were there to save very, very serious injury.
Another very frightening moment. We'll take a timeout and return to tell you what we can learn about the condition of Ayrton Senna. Please stay with us.
Tamburello. Now there's something leaving black marks as Senna leaves the racetrack. He's already picked 6th gear right before he comes into picture and virtually had no braking. Lost very little speed as he made that heavy, very heavy impact.
That was what I was about to say. No sign of smoke from those tires at all. It appeared that the wheels were not being slowed. And virtually no steering on the car. He was well by his apex. Just at the side of your screen, you may have seen Schumacher entering the picture already well into his turn. A turn that Ayrton Senna, for some reason, did not make. We still have no word on Senna's condition at the moment. We'll take another timeout and return and tell you what we can learn about Ayrton Senna. Michael Schumacher takes over the lead. Stay with us. Back at Imola, Italy, Bob Varsha, Derek Daly, the Grand Prix of San Marino has been brought to a stop after 6 laps following a huge shunt involving 3-time world champion Ayrton Senna. Moments ago, we saw Gerhard Berger walking down the pit lane from left to right in your picture toward the medical center. The late Joe Sifford once said, when you take on this job driving a racing car, they give you a checkbook, and every time you have a big crash, you write a check to the angels. There is the medevac chopper.
So Ayrton Senna will be airlifted from the racetrack. We saw him in the car for a long time motionless. We saw one movement of his head and his helmet, and then the doctors got there. It's difficult to understand and see what happened here in this accident, but if you look there at the still, we look at the front wings, we look at the rear wing and the front suspension. Everything is on that car. Now what we don't know is whether he got a puncture in the right front, whether there was something mechanically with the suspension, but he obviously made no attempt to get round Tamburello, and just a huge impact. I hate to say it, but that impact is very similar to the impact that Ratzenberger suffered yesterday during qualifying. It was a sideways impact into the concrete retaining wall.
That impact, of course, throws the weight of the driver's head and helmet to the right or left, as the case may be, with tremendous force. There is the scene of the crash. Apparently, Ayrton Senna will not go to the medical center. The medevac chopper is right there on the racetrack at the scene of the accident. 34-year-old Ayrton Senna from Sao Paulo, Brazil, earning some $20 million a year plying his trade as a Formula One Grand Prix racing driver.
Undoubtedly the most famous name in Formula One, or in racing period, around the world. A man that you're shocked to see injured, or hopefully not seriously injured, when something like this happens. But this weekend seems to have shown on 3 different days now how vulnerable drivers can be and how potentially dangerous motor racing can be, because it seems to have gone a long time without serious injury at such a high-speed sport, and suddenly in 3 days, 3 different serious accidents, we have reminders.
You just heard the sound of a racing car taking off. There is one of the LaRousse cars in red and white. Knowing that the accident scene was just around the corner from the pit exit, I was wondering, as Derek was speaking, what in the world someone was getting all the way up to Full Tilt Boogie with that scene just around the corner. But there is the LaRousse car parked. The driver, I believe that's Eric Comas from the look of his helmet, asking to be allowed to go through, and apparently he will be allowed through. Ayrton Senna will be airlifted to Majore Hospital in Barcelona.
The problem when racing cars hit concrete walls sideways like that so hard, it's sometimes not the impact sideways, it's the wheels and suspension pieces that have to go somewhere that come back and very often wrap their way into the cockpit and bang the driver's head. That can cause the serious injuries.
There is Pedro Lamy, the 22-year-old Portuguese driver for Lotus, who was involved in that crash at the start line that took both him and J.J. Leto out of this race. But those drivers are all right. The one we are concerned about now is the 3-time world champion, Ayrton Senna. We'll be right back. Enzo and Dino Ferrari in Imola, Italy, at the Grand Prix of San Marino, which has been brought to a stop by the accident. You're looking at the scene where Ayrton Senna, the 3-time world champion from Brazil, went off one of the fastest corners, the fastest corner on the racetrack, Tamburello, at unabated speed and hard into the concrete wall. He laid motionless in the car for a very long time before the doctors got to him, and they are still preparing Ayrton Senna for a helicopter flight to Majore Hospital just up the highway from the racetrack.
And remember, we're only 6 laps into this race. This is the second big crash of the race. On the start line, J.J. Leto stalled and was plowed into by Pedro Lamy in the Lotus. That caused a full course yellow, which is something very strange in Formula One. That was the start of this bad afternoon. No sooner had they cleared it up than 2 laps under racing conditions, Senna lost control of the Williams. We can't see why. The wings were on the car, the wheels were on the car, so we can't speculate why this happened. But it's amazing that 3 races into this season, Senna has no points, when it was almost a foregone conclusion by everybody that he was a lock for his 4th World Championship, and now disaster strikes again.
Now we're working hard to try to find out Ayrton Senna's condition. There you see one of the Ferraris being pushed toward the end of the pit lane. But please bear with us. There is no information being offered to us right now from the FIA officials or the race officials about Ayrton Senna's condition. We'll try not to read anything into the situation as you're seeing Senna being taken to the helicopter. It was not on a backboard. I guess the question that needs to be raised now, Derek, is we've seen this spate of accidents that have injured drivers. This is a new technological era in Formula One. All the computerized driver aids, active suspension, and so forth taken away from the technical formula for Formula One. Someone might argue, I suppose, that we now know that those computer aids provided a margin of safety. Is that not too great a leap in logic?
I think the biggest margin of safety that has developed in these cars over the years is the survival cell, or the carbon composite structure that is built around these drivers. Very often you see the tub and the monocoque still in one piece after enormous crashes. We see it here with Senna. Unfortunately, it's what's bolted onto the car that causes the most serious injuries, which is what we may be seeing here. Now, something else the Williams team will be very concerned about was what failed on Senna's Williams. Because remember, they have a second car out there driven by Damon Hill, and if something serious has failed, as we watch Mika Hakkinen look